matters, random start. Rider is ready, watch the gate.
Hey guys, this is Brad the Monkey 7 Racing. I'm back here at home working in the shop on the bike. I've been riding it for about the past couple of months now, and I figured I'd give you guys a little bit of a long-term review now that I've been on it. And I've had some experiences with it on the track. And I've made a few changes to the bike with some of the components to help me out because of what I've been experiencing with my own riding over the past couple of months. So far, the maintenance on the bike's been pretty minimal. I haven't had to do anything too extensive with it. I've had a couple of bolts kind of back out on me. One of the weird ones was the crank arm bolt on the non-chainring side actually backed on me a few weeks ago. I didn't really realize that it had happened, but thankfully I caught it and it didn't do any damage to the bottom bracket. That's really been about the main thing. I played with the alignment on the bars a little bit. They may actually look a little bit out of whack in the video, and I just realized earlier that I may have to adjust them. But I have recently changed these bars along with a few other components that I'm going to tell you guys about to help me out a little bit with my own riding and what I've experienced, and hopefully it's something that maybe you guys can take advantage of as well with your own. Keep in mind that everything I'm going to bring up doesn't be just general practice on the track. So most of what I've been experiencing is just from my own abilities or inability and things that I'm trying to do to make myself a little bit better. But practice is really going to be the best thing compared to changing out components. Eventually, later on down the road, it's something that may help you out anyway as you get better components and put lighter weight components on the bike, of course, to help you out go a little bit faster. Now, all the things that I've done with the bike and that I've changed, I've gotten from the guys there at BMX Race Group. They're available online. They're just up in Los Angeles. They're pretty close to where I am here in San Diego, so they were able to get stuff to me relatively quickly. I got my parts probably within about a couple of days of them getting it shipped out, which is an advantage of them being so close. So one of the first things I did is actually change out the bars. Now the factory bars on this bike are a 5 3/4 inch tall bar. I actually moved up to a 6 1/4 inch tall bar, which is about a ½ inch taller. And the advantage to that is that I'm not so slung over or forward on the bike. I'm actually a little bit more upright on it. It helped give me a little bit more stability. The bars are by a brand called Elevn, or maybe it's Elevn. I don't know how to say it. It's spelled E-L-E-V-N. It's one of the brands that are under the BMX Race Group umbrella that they have of all the components that they carry. And the ½ inch taller is definitely something that gives you a little bit more stability over the jumps, was just something that I was sort of struggling with a little bit as I got used to the bike being underneath me, because it is a little bit smaller compared to the mountain bike that I was on, which is a 26-inch hardtail versus now a 24-inch. So there's a little bit of a difference there from the geometry standpoint. Me being the size that I am, I'm 6'2" and about 205 pounds, and I don't feel like I'm so slumped over on the bike. So it definitely helped with the handling and a little bit more of just the basic feel of the bike underneath me, and it did give me a little bit more stability. They actually offer two different versions of this bar. This is their standard bar. They also have what's called a flat bar. The standard bar has about a 10-degree up sweep on the handlebars, and I believe it's got a 2-degree back sweep on them. Their flat bar only has a 5-degree up sweep and no degree back sweep. So I went with their standard because they said it gave a little bit more stability for when you're on the bike. I definitely felt it just this weekend when I was riding at the track and testing things out. Now, I topped the bars off with a set of ODI grips. Use the same grips I use on my mountain bike. They have a bunch of different colors and arrangements and different looks to them. These are actually the special edition ones that have the Vans sole kind of insert on the grip of the handlebar grip itself. So these look like the bottom of a Vans shoe, and they're topped off with the white and checkerboard end caps, which kind of went along with the theme of the bike, so I thought they were cool. They're 130 millimeter wide, which are plenty wide enough for my hands. They give me a really good grip when my hand was on the handlebars and in the gloves when I was at the track. So these are a really nice grip to have, and just top off the bike a little bit and give it a little bit more of that bling factor. Another thing that I changed out was the seat. Now, the hard plastic seat that came with the bike was actually a little bit less weight than this one. This one weighs a little bit more, but it wasn't any kind of weight difference that I really felt on the bike. At least with my ability, I didn't feel it on the bike. The main reason why I changed it out is because this is more of a padded seat. It's from the same guys that have the handlebars. It's also by Elevn, however you say it. And the padded seat was definitely a lot more nicer when I was waiting in between rounds, in between getting laps in there at the track and just sitting on it. Because the hard plastic seat, I'm kind of a bony tail kind of guy, so it helped have something a little bit more comfortable. So this is definitely something that's worth the investment. One of the other components that I changed out were the pedals. The factory pedals that were on this bike were actually a little bit skinnier and a little bit taller. These are a flatter pedal, and they have a little bit of a taller peg on them. So these gave me a lot more better grip on my feet and just gave me a little bit more better feel with my feet on the pegs. When I was standing in the gate, I didn't have my feet shifting too much. Now the factory pedal actually worked out pretty well. It didn't really do that as much, but these are just that much better. Helps in a little bit of the stability, and they're also a little bit less weight than the factory pedal as well. So it's a little less rotating mass on the cranks, but not really something that you would really notice per se, unless you're really individually weighing each component. Now, one of the other big changes that I made was to the chainring itself. Now, the factory bike comes with a 41 tooth chainring, and it's got an 18 tooth cog on the back. That gave me about a gear ratio of about 2.27 and some change. Now, the new chainring is a 40 tooth. I only went down 1 tooth on the chainring instead of on the cog. The reason why is because you don't have as great of a gear ratio change. So the new chainring with this, still using the factory cog, it gave me a 2.22 and some change sort of gear ratio. Now, going down numerically, what that meant is that I have a little bit more top end. And the reason why I did that is because as I was coming out of the gate and I was getting faster, what was happening is I couldn't pedal quick enough to keep up with the speed of the bike. Now, for anybody that's ever ridden a road bike or a mountain bike where you have multiple gears, of course, as you go faster, you can change gears and change to a more ideal gear ratio for more speed. Well, you can't really do that on these because obviously they're a fixie type bike. You only have the one chainring and the one cog in the rear. And making the slight adjustment isn't too great of a change right off the bat. I didn't want to make too big of a gear ratio change, but what this did is it actually gave me a little bit more to be able to keep up with the bike off the first turn at my local track, where I already had a lot of momentum going, and I can pedal a little bit more and get a little bit more speed through the second section and into the next turn. So it helped me out a little bit. I actually had some confidence this weekend because I was able to keep up with some guys a little bit better. Some of that, of course, comes from just generally practicing. So all of the things that you see here ideally do help, but nothing beats just going out and practicing at your local track. So keep that in mind, because as you start to look at things and look at components and potentially change things around, ideally I change things a little bit because of my size and my riding is getting a little bit better. But you yourself, if you're just starting out, leave things alone, leave it stock, just practice, get used to the bike, and then of course make your changes later on down the road. Now I'm going to have all these components listed below at the bottom of this video. I'm going to have a couple of links on there as well. The chainring and the pedals came from a brand called Insight, which is another brand that's under the umbrella there with BMX Group. It's the same guys that have Chase bicycles. They also have the Elevn components, and then ODI, the grips came from them as well. I also ended up getting a number plate, which is from Insight, and my numbers, I'm not going to show it to you because I kind of screwed up putting the numbers on the bike or on the plate, but it is what it is. All in all, everything's been really good on the bike. Like I said, I haven't had anything too crazy going on with it, haven't any kind of weird maintenance with it. It's always good after a few races or after just a few practice sessions to go through and just nut and bolt everything. Put a wrench on your screws and nuts and bolts and make sure that everything is tight, nothing's gotten loose. And that's kind of some preventative maintenance as you sort of go down the road and just make sure everything's ready to go for the next time you go out, especially if you're going to the track a lot. Because just like when we have the RC cars, when I'm racing RC cars or racing carts or racing cars, we do what's called nut and bolting on the vehicles before we put them on track, because you do have a lot of vibration, and of course vibration can loosen things. So everything went together relatively easy. I got it all together within a couple of nights. One thing I do want to mention is as you change your chainring out on any bike, make sure you don't need a crank arm separator tool. Now I found one from Park Tool, thankfully at my local bike stop or bike store here in San Diego. They had one, and it's mostly so that you can pull your crank arm off of your bottom bracket. It was something that I found out because the bottom bracket that I have and the crank arm that's on here was on here pretty tight. So in order to loosen that up, I had to get that tool. It's about a $12, maybe $15 tool if you find it on Amazon, or maybe your local bike store's got it, and literally just threads onto your crank arm, and it helps pull the crank arm off of the bottom bracket. So when you go to do a chain ring, make sure you've got that tool. Otherwise, it's a relatively easy fix and a relatively easy little bit of maintenance. It took me about 20-30 minutes to kind of figure it out. Another tool that also helped me out was the chainring bolt tool. Now what you have with this is you have a threaded Allen headed screw. On the back side of it, there's a little bit of like it's almost like a flat nut washer combination. And the tool allows you to kind of keep that part from rotating as you're backing the screw off of the chainring and off of the crank arm. So that's something else you may want to consider when you go to do that kind of work, or if you do any kind of maintenance and that sort of thing. All in all, everything's been really good. Like I've said, I got to clean the bike up a little bit because I was on it today. Had a really good day at the track. It was a little hot here in San Diego. Anybody that's seen the weather over the past few weeks, we did get a little warmer. I believe it was about 95 degrees, which of course that goes into the endurance, a little bit of the riding. So otherwise, everything's been good. I'm going to get to cleaning this bike up, getting things going. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, definitely put the questions down there at the bottom of the video. I will try to respond to them as quick as I can. Otherwise, this is Brad Lucky 7 Racing. I hope to see you guys at the racetrack.